And when you're, kind of the main owner, even though when I started hiring people, everything's still up here, right? You've not really released that, you're still leading, but you're not really leading. You're still owned by the business instead of you owning the business. And that took a long time to get out of that cycle.
You're asking yourself, why am I doing this?
Smart people would know how to use all these different tools. They start with something small.
And never get your entire organization if you don't pull off operations. Don't give up.
It can be as small as that.
I think you guys are going to have our last today.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Delegate That podcast, where we discuss the art and science of delegation, business management, and leadership. I am, as always, your host, Adam Labar, and today I feel like I've already recorded half a podcast with you with the conversation we had before we hit the record button. But Tim Winter, I'm looking forward to having a longer conversation with you now. If you can, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us about your businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. So Tim Winter, and you're right, Adam, I think we did record half a podcast, so maybe we'll have to recap some of that stuff, but very good. But I live in Charleston, South Carolina. Been here about 2 years now. We moved down here from Northern Virginia, the DC metro. Been in the home building residential space for over the last 25 years. We have a custom home design build company that we're building in Northern Virginia and also here now in Charleston. It's called Paradigm Homes. We serve our clients by building custom homes, additions, renovations. We also have an architecture side to that company where we service outside clients as well as our own internal. That's where the design build comes in, called HomeLux Architecture. And most recently, we've just about to launch a consulting company for the construction industry called Render Co. And that'll be I've got a passion to kind of help the next generation, help guys that were like me at some point that were stuck trying to figure out how to run a business and then figured it out, but then you got to the next level and got stuck. So there's a couple different versions of that we're working on. So Render Co. is in its infancy stages, but soon to be launched.
Most teams don't have a strategy problem. They have a systems problem. Tasks scattered across tools, goals buried in spreadsheets, and metrics no one actually checks. Zentrix OS fixes that. It's a true business operating system that brings tasks, goals, and performance metrics into one connected workspace. So your team always knows what to do, why it matters, and how they're tracking. No more juggling apps. No more missed accountability. Just a clear, organized way to run your business the way it was meant to be run. If you're ready to stop managing chaos and start managing with clarity, Zentrix OS is built for you. Visit zentrixos.com and take control of how your team operates.
Fantastic. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of stages involved in the business operations side of the house and where you can kind of go with it. So I want to start with the actual home building company, because that's, obviously where you got your chops and really got into understanding how all of these intricacies work. How did you start this business, or did you, how did you come about becoming a home builder?
Yeah, sure. So I started as a kid. I mean, my dad used to buy houses, fix them up, rent them out, and I was free labor. So, probably 7, 8 years old, most kids are out playing with their friends. My dad's got us, ripping, carpet out of a house or teaching us how to paint. So, I learned at an early age that, work ethic was something that I wasn't going to escape, especially with a dad like mine. And so just really kind of, wasn't until later in life that I embraced it. But early on, I look back as, it's really kind of what molded and shaped, a lot of who I became and who I am today. So like I said, it started as an early age and kind of worked my way through that as a teenager. And then at 18, I bought my first house with my dad. So he helped me, he co-signed for me. But I was the main, it was outside of Pittsburgh is where I grew up, and we paid $25,000 for the house. It wasn't like this monstrosity, right? But at the time, I was going to school at Penn State, so I was traveling, 3 hours away. And so my dad actually became my first employee. So he was my project manager. So we renovated this house. We got a little loan to kind of renovate it, and then we put a renter in there. So at probably 1920, I was, in college, and I had somebody renting this house that I owned. And I was like, man, this could be fun. And so I really just loved the real estate side of things. But then, through college, I was trying to figure out, college really wasn't for me, but, I'm in that generation where you had to go get a degree or you really couldn't get a job. So, I took my time, did what I needed to do there at Penn State, really just trying to get out of there. And I left and went to work for a national builder in Northern Virginia. That's how we spent so much time there. So I worked for a national builder, NV Homes, for about 7 years. And that's really where I learned the business, right? One of the best national builders as far as training and developing their people, really kind of getting you to understand the process, but not just the process of building, but also the process of leadership and really, understanding it. I mean, I had one manager that I worked for, really, I kind of, tip my hat to him. He had me in meetings and in places that I probably shouldn't have been in just based on the, my title or role that I was in. But I learned so much. I learned so much on the pre-development, on how they were buying land, what they were doing to work with developers. I really kind of got an inside scoop of how the business worked. And so in 2006, they kind of seen the writing on the wall that things were shifting. I kind of worked my way through the ranks into some higher level leadership there. And they moved me back down into the field. I think I was building 3 houses. So when you work for a production builder like that, 2 or 3 houses is not very much. I think at one point in time earlier on in my career, we had like 20 houses going. I had 2 assistants. I mean, you just slammed. That's just the way the production world works. And from there, I said, I could go do this on my own. And so I left in 2007, but little did I know that the world was about to come crashing down. But I was young, dumb, and naive, and set off on my own and started Paradigm in 2007. And, I've never really looked back. I've learned a lot over those last, 18 plus years of running the business. But so that's a little bit of the backstory of how I got to where we got started.
That's fantastic. Yeah, it's one of those things that, if you were to look back and talk to folks, they'd be like, oh, 2007, what a terrible time to leave and go off on your own. But here you are now, 19 years later, and going, hey, like, life is good. This is where it's at. So there's obviously been a lot of struggles and leadership changes and all this management side of the house. So what sort of skills did you take from being at a large home builder to then creating your own business and helping mold and shape the folks that you are training inside of your own company?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I'm one of those guys that does first and then you lead others. So I have to experience, so there's nothing that I have not done in this industry myself. I mean, it even goes back to being a kid, ripping up carpet, sweeping houses, all of the grunt stuff that you have to learn and grow. So there hasn't been much that I haven't done. But so for me, that's important because I like to kind of step in and lead first. Like there's that servant leader mindset that I don't know if that came from, my parents or even part of my own, maybe my faith journey, maybe some of that. I'm not sure, but really from that working with that national builder, just learned, I had some great mentors that just showed me how to build a house right, what the quality looked like, how to manage schedules, how to manage people. So there was a lot of those, kind of intrinsic values that I learned working for a company like that. They've had a great training program. So they taught you all the different phases of construction. So they really wanted to make sure that you had a good overview of what you were doing so that when you moved up into building the house by yourself, they're still building quality houses.
So when you started your own, did you create a training program inside of your business as well to kind of hand off to some of your builders? I mean, you mentioned obviously doing a lot of that all yourself too, and being involved in all that, but
yeah, not early on because it was just me. So I really just was training myself. It's I think the biggest training, when you leave a big company like that, when they've got all the systems and processes for how they manage subcontractors, how they pay subcontractors, how they do the accounting and all of the other things that I had no clue what to do. I remember watching getting QuickBooks and watching CDs, and videos, how to do. I had no idea. And so I think to this day, my bookkeepers are like, why did you do it this way? I'm like, I don't know. It just made sense to me. Right. So I think early on, that's why I'm so passionate about this consulting company is because I want to go back and help young Tim and say, okay, this is what you did right. This is what you did wrong. This is what I would have coached you a little bit differently on to kind of set you up so that you didn't have to go through all of these, pains and challenges along the way, right? Setting up the system. So, for me, leaving, that company and starting my own, I didn't have a training right away. Now, obviously 19 years later, we've got some different systems and processes, but that took a while to get that set up. I mean, when you're running a business, you're not thinking about training people. You're not thinking about, hey, what's the process here? You just got to get stuff done, right? So let's keep going, get the project moving. Don't worry about the process. And when you're, kind of the main owner, even though when I started hiring people, everything's still up here, right? You've not really released that, you're still leading, but you're not really leading. You're still owned by the business instead of you owning the business. And that took a long time to get out of that cycle. And so that's probably been one of the hardest challenges that I have had to face is like, you got to get out of your own head so that you can train your people to go do their own thing and empower them and give them the ability to grow. And so that's been something we've really been working on the last probably 5 or 6 years. I hired an executive coach in 2019, and that was probably the best move I've ever done. Right. And that's why I'm so passionate about like, how can we help this industry? Because I'm looking at the same way. I probably same thing. I don't have the money to hire that guy. I don't have the time for that. That's a waste of time. It's a waste of money. Why would I spend somebody to teach me that? But in hindsight, I wish I would have done that right out of the gate.
Yeah, for sure. Who would you say were those pivotal besides obviously this executive coach? Sounds like it was a great move, but I'm sure that person kind of helped you focus on your business, to be working on your business instead of in your business. Who were some of the pivotal hires to really kind of let you step back and run your business as opposed to being inside of it all the time?
Yeah, I mean, I think some pivotal hires are putting some salespeople in place to be able to go out and do the business development and run that front. I've got an operations guy that's been with me about 6 years. And so he's really in a lot of the day-to-day, making sure that he kind of connects the office to the field. So it's a pivotal role that kind of manages that. I've got a GM in place right now that's helping kind of balance, because I'm in 2 markets. So he's overseeing that market. So putting the right people in place to be able to do that, to be able to oversee some things. Our business has pivoted a little bit in the last 2 years just because of the market conditions. So I've had to step back into some operations to kind of fine tune some things. And, in transparency, we went through COVID, and COVID scaled us. We had some of those systems and processes in place, but they were a little, unwavering. So we needed to go in. I've gone back in, fine tune those, fixing those up so that when the next wave comes, we're able to balance some of that. I think that's, some of the things that I've learned as an owner, right? You step out, sometimes you got to step back in, but if you develop the process and the leaders right the first time, then you can continue to kind of scale and grow. And you're only stepping in at truly high level problem solving moments.
Yep. If you hire the right folks, that's exactly what you're able to do. It's when you hire the wrong folks or don't keep your finger on the pulse, at least to kind of understand what's happening, that it really starts to bite you in the butt. So I want to transition to the consulting side of the house, because, this obviously is something that you've taken a lot of lessons over the last 18, 19 years that now you want to pour into other folks. Kind of like, before we started recording, you talked about you have this version 1, version 2, version 3. Like, tell me a little bit about the consulting, how you kind of created it, and why, delegating my, if I'm handing over my ability to gain my own wisdom by taking some of yours. Why is, what makes sense in this pattern for somebody?
Yeah. So as we record this is something new. I've been working on this for like the last probably 5-6 months, but it's really starting to develop and flush itself out to where we're about to start taking it to market. And my first cohort's about to kind of launch here in the next couple of weeks. So my vision behind it is like going back to young Tim, right? I look at all the things that I've learned or didn't learn, I guess, learned the hard way. That if I would have had a coach, a mentor, somebody kind of running this race with me, I would have not gone through some of these painful situations. Now, you're not going to escape everything, right? Because life is hard. There's challenges that come at us all the time. But I would have had a different mindset on how to approach it. And so my vision behind why Render Co. is coming into existence is really, I want to go back and help, the next generation, help the guy that was stuck in their business, but they can't get out of the business. They're constantly owned by it. I've got friends that are in this business and, they stay one-man bands because they don't want to scale or grow because, they don't want to take on the overhead. They don't want to, bring on any coaches to kind of get them there. But then they're owned by the business. They can't, vacation's hard. They can't do different things. They can't spend time with their family. Construction's demanding. It's always something moving. And when you're running multiple jobs as a single owner, a lot of times you can get burnt out. I've seen friends get burnt out. So that's the other reason why it's like, why version 1, 2, 3? So version 1 is designed for that kind of, we'll call it entry, beginning, right? The guy that just left his job, he's starting a company, doesn't know how to set up his financials, doesn't know how to set up all of these things. I want to go in and help them prevent the mess that I went through, right? I had to go through a whole reconstructuring on my accounting because I set it up. I'm not an accountant, right? I'm a builder business guy, right? So I want to help that version go through and help them, save them the brain damage and the stupid tax that I had to pay in those moments. So, and then there's some other things, right? How can you help them, think through subcontractor manager? How can you help them do some different things that they're not seeing, like almost help them see the future or anticipate problems before they become a problem? So that's what version 1 is. And version 2 is that builder that's maybe been running a business for 5 to 10 years and is kind of hit their ceiling and they want to go more, but they don't know how. And that's where we can come in and bring some of the lessons that I've learned through my executive coach about putting in better systems and processes. Maybe it's removing some people and bringing in some new people, going into, what does that look like? Being able to help them, that is my friend that's burnt out, right? They've been maybe running the business for 10 years and they're just them, or maybe they got an assistant or 1 or 2 other kind of project managers running around, but they're just burnt out. They don't know what to do. They don't know how the systems, and some of those guys, they're analog, right? They're still doing maybe some things on paper. They're not digital. So how can we help them bring in some of our partnerships? We've partnered with 2 great software companies, Resio and Adaptive. Resio is more of the project management software and Adapt is more of the financial management software. How can we bring in some of those tools to help them streamline? We've got some AI capabilities that we're bringing in for these guys. So we're basically taking them from, not everyone, because not everyone needs it, but analog to digital. So that V2 is really getting into, looking at, so V1 is taking care of young Tim. V2 is taking care of friends that I've seen burnt out. And then Tim that made mistakes in those years. Then how a coach helped me change. And then V3 is for is really designed for that owner that wants to go all in fast. That's where we bring in, right now it's myself, but eventually I'll bring in some other consultants that go into these sprints and we attack and we go hard and we really fine tune and get under the hood and just really, get them to the next level. And why I've created that version 3 is because when I first hired my coach, I was looking for help, but I wasn't in a place where I wanted to sit in a group coaching session once a month because I didn't want to, not that I didn't want to hear other people's problems, because I was stuck and I was struggling. I needed somebody to come in and say, look, I need one-on-one, right? The way I look at it is like when you're working out, do you want to go to a group class? Right. And you got the accountability of the group, which that works for a lot of people. That's fantastic. Or if you're like me, I like one-on-one. I want the person's attention and I'm willing to pay for that. I want the time. I want the ability to go faster together. And so that's why we created version 3. And version 3 is really to kind of get them unstuck, because I've been in all 3 of these phases, right? So they're designed based off of where I was and how I kind of struggled through it. And the vision of it is to help them, prevent the pain points that I had to go through.
Yeah, I was telling you before that I used to help run an education company that taught military members real estate stuff. And it's one of those things that when you go in and you talk to somebody who's done this, when you go in, like you're shortening that learning curve so much. Like it's at a massive improvement in value to be able to pull that stuff off, to be able to get the wisdom from somebody else without having to go and, fall down over and over yourself. So, it is, anybody listening who's ever thought about the coaching side of the house, it is by far well worth it to go and do it and put the effort and put the money in to make it happen. So, if somebody's listening to this and they're kind of like, man, that sounds like me, I would love to be able to do that. It's mostly builders that you're focusing on, right?
Yeah, builders for now, because that's where I know. But the goal is to move that into trades as well. Anybody in the construction industry. I mean, so really at the end of the day, because it's all interrelated. The difference is the builder, they're managing the full general scope of the project. The plumber's got a smaller portion of the scope. So really at this point, it's, the vision is builders, but really the goal is everybody in the construction industry. Right now it's residential because that's the world that I come from. But I just was on a call yesterday with a friend of mine. He's been in the commercial on the structural space, structural steel, owns cranes, owns a roofing company, all these different things. And he's like, man, when you get this thing launched, I'd love to kind of come in as a consultant and a coach to help you, help anybody in that commercial space. So I've got the resources that are out there to really, the goal is to change the industry, right? And so it's really not, I got to start one spot at a time, right? But I've got connections and resources for different people out there. So if anybody's listening, they're stuck, I'd love to kind of help connect, even if it's not with us. I've got some other tools and resources that we can direct them to.
So I've got a friend of mine, this is perfect timing, that is working for a large home builder right now. And he is thinking about starting to kind of go off on his own, build some homes and, coordinate with folks. So if you were talking to him right now, kind of give the sale on version 1 on what this actually looks like, what it's going to take off his plate and how it's going to help him go. I mean, you've already given obviously an idea of but I'm talking like nitty gritty, like no kidding, you're going to come in and this is what you're going to learn in version 1. This is how it's going to help you. This is how it's going to kickstart you and prevent you from spending 3 years making zero money coming out the gate.
Yeah. So great question, because we're still building out the content, but my kind of I'll give you the theory because I don't have the full content created yet, but it's really sitting down and just kind of starting with the basic X's and O's, right? Where we use your friend as an example. All right. Kind of like, okay, what's his vision? Where's he going? Let's start with the high level, right? So we can help him get there. And then from there, right, start with the basics. Let's make sure we've got the right accounting system. Right? Let's make sure we've got kind of some of the processes in place that happen. Because most of the time, like most of us, we don't truly leave that W-2 until we have a project or two lined up, right? Everybody kind of does that, right or wrong. So helping them make sure that they got those kind of the infrastructure in place early on, so that when they're hiring a sub, they know they've got a contract. They've got some of these little things in place. Now, we're not going to do it for them unless they go into the full-blown, consulting side. That's when we'll come in and bring all the tools and resources and help them build all of that stuff. But yeah, it's really just helping them initially kind of figure out some of the small systems and processes, what it even takes to start a business, right? Do you have the right insurance? Do you have the right operating agreements? Do you have the right, all of the things that start with like the protections that everybody forgets until they get sued. Trust me, I've been sued multiple times, and you got to be thankful for those agreements. So having those things in place early on is probably where I would start, the vision behind some of that. Now, if somebody's coming in, obviously your friend, maybe they've been running a business for 2 or 3 or 4 years, we'd probably have them analyze some of those things right early on to make sure that they don't have, some discrepancies and things like that. So, I mean, for me, that's where I would probably hit the goal, and then eventually start to move into some of the more, maybe some sales, some marketing, some different things like that. But most of the guys that are starting off on their own, they're going to be everything, right? They're going to be doing the accounting. They're going to be doing the project management. They're going to be doing the sales. They're going to be doing all those things. So eventually, maybe towards the end of the my vision is to do these in 1 year cycles. And then from there, they can move into a V2 program to where there's other guys that have been doing this and they can learn together. So my vision is kind of the cohort to where they can learn together with other guys that are kind of running this race at the same time, so that they can kind of lean on each other, whether they're in the same market or not. Like, there's value in working and running this race with somebody else, because that's the thing that I didn't do early on. I didn't talk to other builders. Like, why would I want to talk to another builder? They're my competitor. That was the dumbest thing I've ever done. Right now, it's like I talk to builders all the time. Like, how can we help each other? How can we elevate, right, the industry? Because to be honest, there's no trade secrets. We're all doing the dang same thing. We're using a lot of the same subs and vendors and suppliers. The only difference is the person that hired us, they liked you better. you were a nicer person or something. I don't know. There's no trade secret.
Yeah, for sure. And it's, it's one of those things that, I was chatting with him about all of this because I run business side of the house, and he's like, man, I know how to build. Like, this is not a problem. And that's one of those things that when you don't realize, like, you're talking to a builder, like, I already know how to build. I don't need to do all that. But man, oh man, like understanding like the books and understanding how to make a contract. I remember my very first apartment building we did, I was letting other people kind of run it, and because I was like, I don't know anything about this. I'm a military guy. I don't know how to buy an apartment building. I know how to buy an apartment building, but I don't know how to run it. Yeah, right. And we were doing construction and all this stuff, and then things weren't going so well. And I was like, hey, let me see the contract. I want to review this contract. And they were like, well, it was more of a handshake. And I was like, oh crap, like this is hundreds of thousands of dollars on a handshake. Like, what is happening right now? And those are the things that you don't realize. That's like, I mean, I knew that we should have got a contract, and I thought that they knew that, but you don't, unless you're around other people who are doing this, which is why, cut the curve. Don't do what I did. Go to somebody like Tim, who's going to be able to help you out and get you through this type of thing, to say, no, like contracts are a requirement, like, oh, it was dreadful. So,
well, you've identified. I mean, that's exactly what happens. Most people leave the job that they're in. They're a builder, a plumber, an electrician, a roofer, right? They know how to do the work. They know the process. They know how to install everything. They know how to build the house. They know that. And this is the piece that they don't know. And this is why I'm passionate about this, because I've had to learn it the hard way. And I wish I would have had somebody to guide me through this entire process. It would have saved a lot of, sleepless nights.
Yeah, no kidding. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. There were multiple times there through that construction process that I was like, I am not sure how I'm going to talk to my wife about this if this does not go well.
Been there.
Yeah. Thankfully, it didn't go terribly bad, but that's fantastic. So what would you say are like, you picked a couple tools already that you mentioned that you already have relationships with, Resio and Adaptive. What are some of the top tools besides those two that you would recommend folks look at as they're kind of building this out? They're looking at trying to scale a little bit, trying to grow their business, trying to maybe even just start their business. What are some of these tools that right away, these are the things you're definitely going to want to jump on?
I mean, definitely Resio and Adaptive, and probably, and maybe a good bookkeeper, right? So we work with a bookkeeping firm that specializes in, this world, right? In the contractor space, right? They know it, they work, they sync with, that's how we got connected to Adaptive, was through our bookkeeping firm. They're called, Apparatus is the name of them. So any of these three groups, like we've got great partnerships with them. So if, I can get you information on that. If anybody reaches out, we've got some discounts with some of them as well. So that's the great thing about working with these guys. We've vetted them. We've been working with them for, Apparatus has been almost 2 years now, and Adaptive has been about a year. Resio has been about 6 months. And they're great tools, right? Resio is going to be your project management. So it's going to manage your daily logs, your client communication, which is awesome. It takes the people from texting you at 3:00 in the morning, and everything's in this app and everything's tracked. Like it's amazing. Schedules are in there. It does cost coding. I mean, you might be able to get away, depending on how big the company is, right? Like you might be able to just start with Resio and then migrate into Adaptive. We were larger, so it just made sense. Plus Apparatus was big fans of Adaptive. So we went that direction. But those three tools, right out of the gate, definitely Resio, and then a good bookkeeper, someone that's going to run your QuickBooks. Like my bookkeeper told me, you should not be in QuickBooks. Like we're gonna give you tools. We're gonna look at help you run things. I know how to use it because I've kind of like cut my teeth on it. But really, like a good bookkeeper will help you navigate that. Those are probably my three most important tools right out of the gate. And then probably a good, attorney or somebody that can help you write a good contract for your clients and your subcontractors, right? Because those are two of the most important relationships. Like you said, a handshake on a contract, that doesn't serve well in court. You know what I mean? Not that you ever want to go there. These are all protective measures, but I think that's an important tool. That the thing I think most people, when they start a business, myself included, I don't want to spend any money, right? I'm leaving my job. I'm going to maybe take a step back and pay sometimes you need to pay forward to be able to go further. And so for me, that was one of the things I did early on, is I just would do it myself. I mean, now with AI, Tim at 27, when he started all this, would be really in trouble because he'd use AI for everything, and it would probably be even more of a disaster. But anyways, I mean, AI is a good tool, but you know what I mean? You need you still need that human prompt to give you the right information, so that you don't plug in the wrong contract or the wrong terminology. So I think those 4 tools is where I would definitely begin. And then probably, you know, some this is where I would use AI, some kind of training or a coach, somebody like us, someone that's going to help you be a guide, right? AI can get you so far, but really, you know, if it's somebody like us, or if there's someone else there, a friend or family member that's been through running a business, like having that coach, or having just that guide, you know, it would be another powerful tool to kind of make sure that you really start this thing the right way.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's one of those, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go as a team, go together. Right. And you'll be amazed how much farther you can go, and, you know, quicker, because all it takes is that one slip and fall when you didn't have a contract and you thought you were saving money, and all of a sudden you're bankrupt. Like it's not something to play around with. And then you learn from somebody who's gone through some of this stuff, and it's like, oh yeah, you're right. I should probably do that. You know, granted, that person still has to make the decision themselves on what they're going to do. It's still your business. You're still the one that has to make the decision, but man, oh man, I would love to help you not make those mistakes. It's a world of hurt. Well, Tim, it's been awesome chatting with you, getting to know you a bit more about how the business is running and everything. If somebody's hearing this and they're like, dude, I'm a builder, I would love to learn more about this, I'd love to be involved, what is the best way for folks to reach out to you, Tim?
Yeah, so right now, I'll give you my email address, twinter@paradigmhomes.com. That's probably the best way to get me right now. We're still in the process of launching all the RenderCo websites and email addresses and all those things. We're in the beta test. We got our first group that's going to launch here in a couple weeks. But if anybody wants to join that beta, let me know. We've got two guys that are ready to go. I've actually been working with them kind of early on to kind of see if this was something that I could get off the ground, and they're excited about it. So it's been good.
Very cool. All right. So twinter@paradigmhomes.com. Is that right?
Yep. Perfect.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, reach out to Tim if there's anything he could do to serve you on this, and if you want to sneak into the beta and kind of help shape and mold this thing for you and for him, that would be fantastic. Tim, it was awesome getting to chat with you a little bit. Obviously, a world of experience in coming their way if anybody joins. So thank you for sharing that. If you guys like this episode, please share it with somebody you think will like it even more than you. We appreciate every one of you guys that are listening. Please like and subscribe as well. Reach out to Tim if there's anything he can do to serve you, and we will see everybody on the next show.
Thanks.